White parrots are often known for their noise. Their vibrant crests that shoot up in surprise. Their sudden jerky movements that seem to fill a room with energy. They can be loud, demanding, and incredibly social. But in the right space, with the right heart, they can be something else entirely. They can be incredibly gentle. This is a story about that kind of gentleness. Our story takes place in a bright, airy home, a place filled with warm, natural light that streamed through large windows. This was the home of a white parrot named Pearl. For many years, Pearl had lived a quiet life here. Her feathers were a brilliant, pure white, so immaculate, they seemed to reflect the sunlight as she rested on her favorite perch near the window. She wasn't a talkative parrot. She didn't fill the house with chatter or mimic every sound she heard. Instead, she was an observer. She watched the world outside, the dust motes dancing in the sunbeams, the slow rhythm of the house. She spoke more with her calm presence than with her voice. Then one day, everything changed. The gentle, predictable rhythm of the home shifted. A new life arrived. A baby, whose name was Elena. From the very first moment Elena was carried through the door, bundled in a soft blanket, Pearl noticed the shift. The house, once filled with the steady sounds of adult life, now held a different kind of quiet. The sounds were softer. The movements of the people around her became slower, more deliberate. The very air in the room seemed to hold its breath, calmer and more fragile than before. Any other parrot might have reacted to this change with noise. A territorial scream, a flurry of anxious flapping wings, a display of dominance to reclaim the attention she once had. But Pearl did none of these things. She didn't scream. She didn't flap her wings in a panic. She simply leaned forward on her perch, her dark, intelligent eyes fixed on the small bundle in her human's arms, and she watched. Each day, a new routine began to form. Elena would spend time in the living room, laid upon a soft, colorful blanket on the floor. And from her perch above, Pearl would keep her silent vigil. She would turn her head with a slow, deliberate grace, studying every small movement Elena made. The tiny kick of a leg, the gentle wave of a hand, the soft sighs of a sleeping baby. She absorbed it all. When Elena cried, a sound that could easily startle a bird, Pearl remained quiet. She didn't join in the noise or show any signs of distress. She simply watched, her body still, her gaze unwavering. And when Elena would eventually calm down, her cries softening into whimpers and then silence, Pearl would make the softest clicking sounds with her beak. They were slow and careful, almost rhythmic, like a quiet metronome marking the return of peace. As the weeks turned into a month and then another, Pearl began to adjust her own routine to match the baby's. It was a subtle transformation, one that might have gone unnoticed by anyone who didn't know her well. She lowered her voice. The occasional squawk she used to make became softer, more muted. Her movements became less abrupt. She would step along her perch with a newfound caution, as if not wanting to disturb the delicate quiet of the room. Most of all, she waited. She waited with a patience that seemed ancient and wise. One warm afternoon, as sunlight pooled on the living room floor, Elena, now a few months old, lay on her blanket looking up at the world. She reached a tiny hand upward, her fingers opening and closing, exploring the air above her. She wasn't reaching for anything in particular, just discovering the space around her. From her perch, Pearl saw this small, outstretched hand. And for the first time, she moved not away, but closer. She carefully stepped toward the edge of her perch, the part closest to the floor where Elena lay. She leaned down, and with a gesture of profound trust, she lowered her head slightly. Her angle was perfect, her movement slow and deliberate, allowing Elena's questing fingers to accidentally brush against a single, soft wing feather. In that moment, Pearl stayed completely still. There was no fear in her eyes. No sudden jerk or startled flap. There was no rush to pull away. There was only a quiet, profound stillness. A silent offering, a moment built on pure trust. As Elena grew from a baby into a toddler, their bond deepened in its own unique, quiet way. Pearl, the silent observer, began to mimic Elena's softest sounds. She didn't mimic them loudly, not in the playful, boisterous way parrots often do. She echoed them gently, softly, as if she were trying to respond in the same delicate language Elena was just beginning to learn. A soft coo from Elena would be met with an equally soft, throaty sound from Pearl. A gentle giggle would be answered with a quiet clicking from the perch. Elena would look up and smile at the big white bird. And Pearl would tilt her head, her dark eye full of a gentle, knowing intelligence. That was their connection. It wasn't built on shared games or loud interactions. It was built in the quiet spaces, in the shared stillness of a sunlit room. Years later, when Elena was old enough to have clear memories, she would often think back to Pearl. She wouldn't remember her as a loud, demanding parrot, the kind you read about in books. To her, Pearl wasn't a pet who performed tricks or screamed for attention. She was a quiet, constant presence, a guardian of her earliest moments. A silent friend who shared the quiet beginnings of her life. This story reminds us that some of the most powerful bonds don't need grand actions or dramatic rescues. They don't need words or loud declarations. Sometimes they are built simply through quiet observation, through a shared sense of peace. And most importantly, through the conscious choice to be gentle in a world that is so often loud. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing for more stories about the incredible connections we can form with the world around us. We'll see you next time.